Welcome to day 2 of Nantucket by Design, and what better way to kick it off than this group of powerhouse collaborators and friends. Welcome you. I hope everybody had a wonderful first night. I don't know how many of you made it to the party last night, but hopefully you got a good rest. So I'm really excited to have Sarah back. She's a wonderful partner of Nantucket by Design and the NHA, and we do our cross-collaboration partnership where we go down and see her in Palm Beach every winter, which is wonderful. And so I'm going to let her kick it off. We're so grateful to our presenting sponsors, Woodmeister and William Ravis. They make all of this happen. And our panel sponsor, The Colony. And I will let Sarah take it from here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marla. Good morning. And as Marla said, welcome to Nantucket by Design Day 2. I am Sarah Wetenhall, owner of the Colony Hotel in Palm Beach and the Hedges Inn in East Hampton. Today, our topic is the power of collaboration in modern day design. Not only am I fortunate to be friends with these two esteemed panelists, but I've also had the pleasure of collaborating with them in the past. But before we get into the details, let's learn a little bit about Nick and Roxy. Nick Mele is a lifestyle, fashion, and fine art photographer, known for his whimsical take on American luxury, blending old world glamour with modern irreverence. His work offers a playful glimpse into a dreamlike domestic life in resort towns like Palm Beach and Newport. A Georgetown and International Center of Photography alum, Nick started his career under society photographer Patrick McMullen before forging his own style. His images have appeared in Vogue, Town & Country, Architectural Digest, and more, with clients ranging from Ralph Lauren to Bergdorf Goodman. You can also find his work in his books, A Newport Summer and Palm Beach Living. Nick Mele.
Thank you.
And also with us is Roxy Owens. Roxy is the founder and creative force behind Society Social, a modern lifestyle brand blending vibrant, customizable furniture with timeless design. Raised in North Carolina's furniture capital and trained at Parsons School of Design, she launched Society Social in 2011 after a career in corporate retail. Known for colorful and tailored pieces, her work has been featured in Vogue, House Beautiful, Veranda, and beyond. Today, Roxy designs and manufactures small batch furniture in Hickory, North Carolina, with Society Social collections found online and in many destinations, such as the Colony Hotel in Palm Beach. So,
Thank you,
ladies
Sarah.
and gentlemen, Roxy. So as part of the 2022 Colony Hotel renovation, we partnered, as I said, with Roxy and Society Social to create a capsule collection of furniture that was designed specifically for our guest rooms. In fact, it's still available for sale today, and Roxy and I always like to chat. One or two of the pieces were designed in collaboration with my son, Drew, which are named Drew's Dresser and Drew's End Tables. So we've definitely enjoyed a lot of time collaborating with the two of us and other people beyond. And over the years, I've partnered with Nick on various photo shoots. He frequently shoots at the Colony, and he also did a fine art series specifically for our guest rooms at the hotel. So without further ado, let's talk about collaboration. So first, Nick, let's start about how collaborations begin. Let's hear from you about what makes you open to collaboration and what motivates you to work with other creative people.
Well, I think if you can find a great partner, collaboration is a fantastic way to elevate both brands. For me, it's about finding things that are kind of outside of my wheelhouse. You know, I am an image maker. I create scenes. But I really rely on other people to help me bring these things to life. Fabulous interiors and great landmark locations and antique furniture and all these different things that if I can find partners that can slide into that, it only helps both of us, I think. You know, when I partner with the Colony, it's amazing to have my name associated with an establishment like the Colony. If I partner with Roxy and put her furniture in my photos and we do a campaign together, It only makes my photos look better to have amazing furniture in it, and it helps her to have great images of her furniture. So it just makes sense. And if they can fit in, if we have similar aesthetics and design senses and things like that, I think it's win-win.
Roxy, what about you? What do you think about that?
I truly, truly believe in the power of brand collaborations. I get really excited when you find a partner whose brand's aesthetics and personality aligns. I get really excited when there's a shared story to tell. I think the best collaborations are with visionaries who are super passionate about their brands, like you all, who have a clear, concise vision of where they want to go, but also have that collaborative spirit of, what is the point of a collaboration? And like Nick was saying, it's to elevate both brands, to have a little fun, and to, one of the big benefits is to key into, and we're all friends here, to key into your group of friends, so to say, and yours. And, when you share that consumer in the same target market and the passion and the brand aesthetics, I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, and I know what I feel, is that we often find that we're stronger together, and that together we all rise and all lift each other and end up with more exposure, which obviously is what we're all looking for. So what makes you say yes to a collaboration? And conversely, what would make you perhaps take a step back and say no, or maybe? Are there any red flags that you've seen along the way?
Absolutely. I think we just spoke to the power of collaboration, but I think we've all been in a position where we felt in our gut we had to say no. And I think that can be hard. Sometimes you don't learn the lesson until after. But I think that, at the get-go, if it feels forced, if the communication isn't strong at the very beginning, if you can't answer one of my first emails, something that simple, just really have to pay attention to those red flags. And I think collaborations are not always about clout or, like the bravado behind it. A lot, it's about creating something meaningful, and I think that you can tell from the get-go. If your partner doesn't have a vision, if you can feel it's more about just them and elevating them, I think that's easy to tell. And collaborations, I always say, are kind of like marriages. Like, you have to have trust and clear communication. You have to really want to lift the other brand up. And those are definitely things I think through at the very beginning before we enter. And for Society Social, we've been in business for 14 years, and I've really grown the brand intentionally and slowly. And I think that's the best way. You have to trust your gut, and sometimes when you say no, it's probably the best thing.
I think it really has, before you even get to the stage where you're interacting and whether people are good partners or bad partners, because a lot of times you won't even know that until it happens.
And that stinks.
I think I think you have to look at, do your brands align? Does it make sense? Is it up market or down market? Are you guys kind of on the same page as far as a luxury good or a mass market good or that sort of thing? How does the populace view that brand, and does it align with how you want your brand to be viewed? And then even, do you guys have a similar aesthetic or a similar kind of driving force? I recently met with a brand who we thought might be a good collaborator, and then when we sat down and talked, we realized that their kind of ethos and what they were trying to accomplish was vastly different than kind of what we were going after, the market we were going after, and the things like that, where on the surface it looked like, oh, well, their product is kind of what we would want in our photos. Their kind of goals, the markets they were trying to capture, were completely different than the markets we were trying to capture. So you really kind of have to look at that sort of thing, and whether or not it's just even a fit as far as identity and things like that.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of open communication. I know in our office at the Colony we talk a lot about if the relationship is transactional or if it's truly integrated and authentic. And for us, we often know a red flag right off the bat if it feels really forced, is a word I heard both of you use, but also transactional, or if it feels integrated. And again, our goals are aligned, our ethos are aligned, and what we're trying to accomplish, even if the brands maybe aren't on the same luxury plane, but if our goals are aligned, then it's got a shot at working. Are there any categories or areas where you've decided it's best to not team up, where you want to stay solely independent? Is there any area in your business that's kind of too precious?
I honestly feel, I try not to be a no person. I try to be a yes person. I do feel that the most successful collaborations have a little bit of a surprise element to them. I think that partnering with brands outside of your industry can be really exciting and fun. But again, you have to make sure that the brand's aligned, the communication is there, that you share the same goals. I can't say that I would say no to a specific any category at the moment.
I just think it needs to be, every new collaboration has to be kind of new and exciting. I think it can get stale if you're doing the same kind of collaborations, just with different companies and things like that. And you want to do things that push the boundaries while still staying true to what you do. You don't want to be over here in one area and over there in one area. So it has to make sense, but you also want it to be something that's worth talking about, or something that's worth really kind of, that gets you excited but gets the public excited and stuff like that. And you need to be able to feel that you can bring something new to it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, given that we're all creative individuals, chemistry is really important. How do you tell if you have chemistry or not? Again, we've talked about communication, we've talked about these steps, we've talked about alignment of goals, but if the chemistry is not there, can the magic happen? One. And two, how do you know if the chemistry is not there? Is it your gut? What is it?
I think for me, again, it goes back to that initial conversation and I think you can kind of tell right off the bat whether you guys have the same, sense of in my case, it's aesthetic. In my case, it's audience, that sort of thing. If it's too far out and too far apart from what I kind of consider my own ethos, my own design sense, my own, what I have as a pillar of my brand, then it's probably not going to work. And you're not going to tell really until the end of the day if you're going to really work well together. But sometimes you have to take chances on that sort of thing, and sometimes it just it'll be a one-off and won't do that again, kind of.
Yeah. But it's a lesson, and you've learned
It's a lesson.
and so there's
you've
value
learned
in
it.
that.
Yeah. And not everyone is going to be a winner, and not every, but it's a little bit of trial and error, I think. We're not all going to find fabulous hoteliers like you in every sense,
And this is a little surface level, but I think brand aesthetically and brand visually, you can look at all of our brands and see the common thread. There's color, it's playful, it's fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So, that instant, Society Social is known for maximalism. We love traditional design. We're a little playful. And I think in looking at these pictures, you see all of that in the Colony and with Nick's work. And I think that's why we've all worked so well together. And I think in the very first initial phone calls, you can notice the communication flow. So sometimes we know to take the lead, and then sometimes we know it's not our time to take the lead. And I think just being a good listener again. And we talked about this, Sarah, it's kind of like a relationship. Like we're
very
kind
much
of,
like
we're
a
dating a little bit at first, and then, but if you learn to trust each other and you do your homework and like we've harped on the brand aesthetics and just the visualness to all of our brands, you can see the common thread between us. And if you look at another brand and you can't see your brand in it or yourself in it, then obviously that's like an immediate red flag, an immediate no.
Well, and I think we've all done a very good job and worked very hard to establish a very distinct brand identity. And so if you go in expecting them to change their brand to fit you, or for you to change your brand to fit them, then it's not going to work. Ideally, people will see my work and see what I do and have a very clear sense of who I am as an artist and as a collaborator. Then they'll just let me do what I do in the context of that. They're not going to come in and try and get me to be what I'm not. So, and I vice versa.
I think both of you touched on something that's extraordinarily important. One, that it's a lot like a relationship. And just like any relationship, you need to know who you are. You need to know who you are as a brand before you attempt to collaborate with someone. Just like a relationship, if you go into a relationship and you don't know who you are and you don't have a sense of self, that relationship is probably not going to be successful. And it's very similar. We all have these brands with strong ethos, strong mission statement. We know who we are. And that confidence and knowledge of self, I think in a lot of ways is what allows us to then collaborate. And there's a lot of ego, I think, that comes into that. Again, we're creative individuals. We've created these brands that obviously we're passionate about. So how do you handle moments of tension? How do you set aside your ego? How do you handle moments of tension, which inevitably happen?
I love a sports analogy. So you just have to keep your eye on the prize. Like, what is your shared goal? And, you just also have to really treat each other with respect. And, I always try to put myself in my partner's shoes, like what is Sarah's goal? What is Nick's goal? What is their brand ethos? And you always have to come back to what is our shared goal? And if, that next decision, like, is this the hill I want to die on? Probably not. And, relationships are so important within the business. I think not only for sales and marketing, but we all want to enjoy what we do. And just like a relationship, like, would you work with someone that you don't enjoy being around? So I think a lot of the, pre-calls that you can take and all the, research that you can do before you enter into collaboration is so important. At the same time, sometimes you don't know until you know, but communication, checking your ego at the door, refocusing on your shared goals and, keeping your eye on the prize. Because at the end of the day, we all want to elevate our brands. We all want to support and respect each other. And we all want to have fun and, to put cool things out into the market that excite people, that are fresh and that elevate us all.
I just bury my head in the sand and hope it goes away.
That's because your ego is just so big. I mean,
I like to do that too.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta, grit your teeth and get through it, and do the best job that you can do, and hopefully you put out something you're proud of, and you never have to do it again.
and worst case scenario, you chalk it up to learning, right?
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
learn from it,
you learn
and then you
from
move
it.
on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as far as creative boundaries are concerned, I think one challenge in collaboration is figuring out where your voice ends and your collaborators begin. How do you navigate that shared authorship? Are there any tips, tricks? Is there a script?
I think you just want to be a good partner. If somebody is putting in all the effort, then it's just one side's going to feel resentful than the other. I think you just gotta, if somebody is really going all out, you need to try and do what you can to go all out as well. I think it's just we always talk about that. To be a good partner, be somebody that a brand will want to work with again, or will want to recommend to other brands and things like that. I think in any industry, it's about relationships, and I think there are plenty of photographers who are more talented than me that don't go anywhere because they're not good with people, or they're not good employees or clients or whatever. A brand, you want a brand to want to work with you again, want to recommend you to friends, or even, as a hotel, you want the people who stay there to be like, oh, you have to stay at the Colony Hotel because it was the best experience.
Yep.
And if that's not the case, then it's slowly people are not going to start coming.
Yeah.
So it's just, even if it's your partner is not a good partner, you want them to feel like they had a good. You don't want to burn bridges that you don't have
Great.
to.
Yeah.
I think maintaining a sense of openness and obviously communication. In some of the slides, you'll see this gaming chair that is part of our collection with Nick. And when Nick and Kristen suggested this gaming chair, I was like, oh, well, we've never done that before. And in my head, I was thinking of like a standard issue gaming chair. I don't know if you all can see it, but like cheap leather, the kind that sits on the ground. But we trust. There it is. How cute is that? And that's in a sister parish performance fabric. But it takes an element of trust of, okay, maybe I don't see this right away, but I trust your brand, I trust you, I really like you all. And I think that when you have those elements, that creativeness comes out in the actual finished product, and in this case, this gaming chair, which I think is the epitome of our brands. It's playful, it's unexpected, it's a little quirky, and I think the beauty of it too, of this game chair, sorry for the sales pitch, but you can customize it in any fabric that you would like. And I think also that is an element that is part of our brands. They're special, they're unique, and you can really make them your own. So I don't know if that answered the question, but.
No, I think so. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's the blending
Right.
of two ideas into one. And I know, what we've learned at the Colony, and this may fly in the face of something I said earlier about it not being too transactional, we have learned as we get into our collaborations that it is important in the world of over-communication to enumerate deal points, deliverables, whatever you want to call them, of who does what to whom. And I think that's that part of that authorship of ensuring that the relationship stays positive, as Nick says, and that everyone leaves feeling like they win. Even if maybe they didn't, they want to feel good about it, and that means being over-communicative. And we do it a lot, like who's doing this and who's doing that. I own the PR, you own this, but you get to approve all written materials. You get to approve all photography. We're going to share the guest list to the opening party, whatever it's going to be. And it seems silly at the outset to be that detail-oriented, but we've learned that it often...
Expectations are good.
Expectations are managed, and it saves a lot of heartache in the long run, which is obviously what we're all looking for. Well, let's talk about the business side of this. Roxy, let's start with you. Do you believe collaborations move the needle at your bottom line?
I think that there are different types of collaborations. I think there are collaborations that might be more sales and marketing focused. Mm-hmm. I think that there are collaborations that are, more product focused. I think that you have to align on the goals with your partner. And I say this all the time, I don't think that a collaboration has to be a huge breadth of product and assortment. It could be one amazing product that tells your story, that tells your partner's story, and creates a buzz. And, it, like I said, just based on your goals at the time, are you looking to push your marketing? Are you looking to really drive more sales? And I think that's the beauty of collaborations. You can choose different partners depending on your goals at the time. And as long as it, is something new and fresh and creative and is authentic to both the brands, I think it's a win, whether it's a marketing win or a sales win, because brand image and marketing can be just as important as moving the needle in sales. Yeah, I think it just depends on your goals and your partner's goals at the time.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily looking for a direct windfall when I'm looking for a collaboration. I'm not necessarily, if I partner with Roxy on, a furniture line, things like that. It'd be great if we sold a ton of furniture and I made a ton of money off of that, and it was fantastic. But that's not.
And
really,
we all make a ton of money.
And we all make a ton of money, and we retire young. But that's not necessarily my main goal. My main goal is just to bolster my brand identity and to partner with good people and get more eyeballs on me. And it only looks better for me if somebody's like, oh, that Nick Mele, oh, they think Society Social, they think the Colony, they link my name to other strong brands, and that will only lead to more business in different ways. More eyeballs, more respectability. It will lead to other people wanting to collaborate with me, and it's all about, for me, it's all about just getting my name and my brand out there and giving it more clout and just that sort of thing. It's all bolstering that, and that will lead to me getting hired as a photographer. That will lead to more sales of my fine art. That will lead to more opportunities to shoot in cool places. That's more what I worry about than, it's great to, the more money I can make, the better, but it'll all lead to making more money and more business in some way or the other if it's a good collaboration.
No, that makes sense. And I think, Roxy, what you hit on about knowing your goal. If you're looking for a collab that is going to directly relate to sales, that is a specific collab, versus a marketing related collab that's going to overall lift your company, overall lift,
Correct.
What your presence.
And ideally, you'll find one that does both.
Ideally, like when you collaborate with the Colony. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think knowing who you are and what you're setting out
Right.
to accomplish is
Right.
what's important here. Well, I'd love to hear from each of you a story behind your best creative collaboration and your worst creative collaboration.
Do we have to say names?
So let's be
Yes.
let's like.
Sarah, I'm going to say you.
And
Sorry,
if you,
Nick.
And if you can't say names, just
Yeah.
And perhaps I should exclude myself from the list just to make it interesting. Huh?
Oh gosh. Well, I was going to say you and Nick. No, but I will have to touch on you all just a little bit, because I think our collaboration with the Colony was one of the most fulfilling collaborations we've done. You have such a clear sense of vision. You're so passionate about the history of the Colony, being a guardian of the property, and you don't meet a lot of founders like you, to be honest. And then just the level of collaboration that we took on together. It was over a span of a couple of years. It was a huge, huge project. And we were just a small part of that. We had the honor of working with so many legacy brands and designers, and just to see that vision come to life. There's so many creatives in the room, and finally, when the unveiling came, when it was time to celebrate, to be able to step into physically what we did together was so cool and so fulfilling. So that was definitely a high point in my career. And the Colony has such a spirit and such a strong brand. And you guys are viral. People just adore you. My daughter wears your pajamas at home in North Carolina. There are holes in them because she wears them so much. So collaborating with the Colony, it was wonderful, and I really, really, truly love working with Nick's team. Just like your sense of your whimsy and the magic that goes into each photo and the work that you do. It's just so much fun to work with brands who have like such a creative force behind them. And then as far as brands or collaborations that were negative, we have been in collaborations where it's felt like transactional, like we're used a little bit. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't know till you're halfway through it, and you just have to maintain your professionalism, keep your eye on the prize, and think about like what good can come of this. And I think that's all I'll say about that one.
Okay. I didn't get any of these questions beforehand,
Sure.
which I probably should have. So I will name two brands that were great collaborators, and it's not because they're both in the room. One, I had a great ongoing collaboration with Kravet and Brunswick and Fee. We did a fantastic, and there it is. They very generously, along with the designer Danielle Rollins, decorated my house, covered head to toe in Brunswick fabric and wallpaper, which I love because I'm a maximalist. And as you can see, it's really deep, strong patterns, which is great for kids and animals because it hides all the stains. And and so we came up with a great concept for a campaign, and brought in animals and had fun and did a whole shoot. And then I sold the pictures as fine art, and then I've gone and done talks at their showrooms and presented the art there, and they were able to use the photos as campaign images for their website and mailers and all that sort of thing. And it's a brand that very much aligns with my aesthetic and with the types of rooms and things that I would normally shoot. And so we're really aligned very well on our goals and our identity and things like that. And they've been great partners, and I'd like to think that I've been a good partner, and it really just is a natural synergy, and we continue to work together. And I really enjoy all the people that work there from a personal standpoint. So it really couldn't be a better kind of partnership that I hope continues. And then the other one is kind of on a commercial side, but it's also evolving into a fine art and type of thing, and that's with Lily Pulitzer, which is such an iconic Palm Beach brand where I'm based, and has such a history and such a thing. So just to be able to associate myself with that kind of name is fantastic. And I do a lot of commercial work for them, but they also let me be me, and they let me, I have to shoot what they need for their marketing and things like that, but they let me shoot what I want to shoot and have fun with it. And maybe that turns into fine art that I sell at some point, or that turns in, and at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that we continue to want to work together and continue to want to create things, and that they're open to things that might be outside their wheelhouse, especially when you're working with a company that size, they can be have very strict rules and things like that. But the fact that they're like that, but they're still like, well, let's try this, let's do that, which might not be something, and that they'll promote me as not just, most brands, if you work, as a photographer, as a commercial photographer, they're not, they're not going to promote you. They don't care. They're just going to put up the images, and those are their images, and those are the brand's images. But, Lily does a really good job of promoting me as the photographer. This is, our new line shot by Nick Mele, and find out more about Nick Mele. And that's such a rare thing for a commercial clothing line. And so I really am appreciative of that. And honestly, I don't think I've had that many bad collaborations. I think, again, it comes down to if they're not doing their part, if you feel like they're taking advantage, if it's all about them and they're trying to get the most out of it that they can without necessarily reciprocating, or they're trying to put too many rules on you, or not letting you be you. The Colony Hotel is one of the few hotels, I think, around that lets me walk around without my shoes on everywhere, because that's me. And
Don't tell the county.
and so
He does shoot better without shoes on, though, so
Yes.
it's going to work with him.
So it's I don't really have any horror stories, thankfully.
That's good. That's good.
But talk to me again in a few years, maybe I'll.
It's interesting, fortunately we don't have a horror story either, but we have had challenges along the way. And I think those challenges inform some of the learnings that we've talked about earlier. But I can tell you, we redesign a lot of villas in collaboration with brands. And we have run across in a few of our different villa redesigns where we're engaged with a partner, and then midstream, the partner wants to bring in other partners. And that's one of those that kind of, again, you try to have open communication, you think that you've thought of everything, and then you're 2/3 of the way down the road and you feel like there's a gotcha. And that's I think
feeling.
for us has gotten tricky, and that goes back to that list of deliverables, sort of deal memo. We try to not be too structured, but you have to have a tool that encourages conversation and then encourages honesty. And I don't think that the partners that we worked with were intentionally being dishonest. They were brands that ran their organization in a very different way, in a more transactional fashion, honestly. And it was midway through the relationship that we found that they were engaging other people to join in the partnership and taking compensation for that. And that, again, didn't feel great. Didn't feel good. Didn't feel like we were aligned. But again, we were down that road. We're highly pregnant, as we always say. And so, can't undo it at that point.
Right.
But we took it as a learning. And, and at the end, the product was extraordinary, and we were all very happy. And we took it as a real solid learning for what we do in the future, and knowing what questions to ask and how to ask them, to try to ensure that we don't get in the position again. But I think at the end of the day, we're all realists. We may not get in that position again, but we're probably going to get into another one. And then we'll learn from that and we'll move on. And that's kind of what it's about. So design and branding cross-pollination. I mean, all of our disciplines, photography, design, interiors, marketing, and branding, they're all kind of melded together in this wonderful and sometimes highly confusing melting pot right now. Where do each of you begin? Does it start with the brand, and does that inform your work? Or does it start with your work, and does that evolve and inform your branding and marketing?
I think it has to start with the branding. I say this all the time. There are many manufacturers who specialize in custom upholstery or wicker or rattan and grass cloth, lounge chairs. But what makes you unique is your specific point of view, your partner's specific point of view, and branding is everything. I come from a marketing background, and I'm truly passionate about telling the story, because no one else can be the Colony, and no one else can be Nick, and no one else can be Society Social. And that's a special secret sauce to any collaboration. And then it's taking the brands and then seeing what you can do within your mediums. So like I said, the gaming chair that was up there just a minute ago, how can we translate our brand spirits into something really unique? I think if you start with furniture, I mean, like I said, there are so many vendors who do furniture, but it's our point of view that makes us special. I think that's absolutely the way that you have to start.
I mean, I say this all the time. Nowadays, the barrier to entry to being a photographer is so small. You know, it used to be everybody. You know, if you wanted to be a photographer, you had to get all the equipment and know how to use film and a dark room and all these things. And so there weren't that many photographers. Now everybody has a powerful camera right in their pocket, and all the, you know, Photoshop, AI. It's so easy to make a beautiful picture that why is somebody going to hire me versus the next guy? It has to be my point of view. It has to be my brand. It has to be something where they say, I want Nick Mele. I don't, you know, so it's less about trying to please everybody and more about staying in my lane and having very strong ideas about who I am as an artist and as a brand, so that people will be like, that's what I want. And when I first started, you know, I would do any kind of job that people would hire me for because I wanted the money and I wanted the practice and stuff like that. I was still kind of figuring out what my brand was. But I would be very clear about what I was putting out into the world. So even if I went and did food photography at a restaurant, I wouldn't advertise that. I wouldn't put it on my website or on Instagram or anything like that because I didn't want to be a food photographer. So I was very clear to only post and put out the things that would bring back what I wanted. You know, if I wanted to be a high fashion photographer, I would only post my fashion work and things like that because that's the work I wanted to come back in. And slowly over time, I think, you know, I started to develop a style and a brand that was based off what people were reacting to. It was based off of what I wanted to do and the type of artist I wanted to be, but it was based off of the kind of content and things like that that people were responding to, and that was different, that was unique from what other people were doing. So I think, you know, building a brand, you can kind of have an idea of the type of brand and the space you want to be in and stuff like that, but it's going to evolve over time. You're not going to know right off the bat, you know, that these are my brand ethos and this is, you know, you might have an idea, but it's going to change based off of the marketplace, based off of the products and the things that people are really responding to, and you're going to kind of lean into that and kind of sculpt it like, you know, like any kind of other thing. And then once you've kind of established it, you got to stick to it, and you can't. You need to evolve. And I know the Colony is constantly trying to do things that are new and are different than that will garner attention, but they at the same time have to stay within a certain you know, sandbox.
Yep.
You know, so that's kind of the challenge, is to innovate and find new and exciting partners and things, but things that also, you know, don't confuse your identity.
Yeah, no, we are definitely, all three of us, and I think most brands are, they're organic, they're living. They're not static, and we're never done.
Continually evolving.
Continually
And
evolving.
like you were saying, you know, collaborations are about storytelling, but you have to be very careful about the story you're telling, because you could pigeonhole your brand into a lane you don't want to be in, like food photography. And brand positioning is so important. And in each collaboration, you can change your position a little bit, and you've really got to keep that in mind when you're choosing partners to work with. Like, where does this position my brand after this? And, you know, we definitely been in situations where we're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that one. But again, you learn. And I have a business coach, and I know that I'm kind of really going through a hard time when she says to me, well, what can we learn from this today? But yes, it's the storytelling and the brand positioning and creating something unique and fun. And I feel so lucky to be at a point in my career where I can, you know, I'm better at saying no, and I can really have fun with what we do and with our partners, and And I think that comes with, like you said, Sarah, like being confident in yourself and your brand and who you are and sticking to your vision. And that lends itself to a collaboration that's, fresh and exciting and that everyone enjoys. And when we all enjoy it, I think you can tell in the end products and the photos and in the marketing, you can tell when a collaboration has been fun for everyone involved.
I think there's a lot of power in no. You say that, because especially when you're a budding company, you're just excited that somebody wants
I've
you.
said yes.
You're just like, wait, you want to collaborate with me? But to get to a point where you have enough faith in who you are as a company and who you are as an artist or whatever it is, to be able to say, that doesn't quite feel right. I love that you want me, but I don't think it's right. And to be able to say no means you're in a good position too.
It means you're in control as well, which
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for that. Well, let's look to the future for a minute as we about wrap up.
But I have a
please.
quick question. Is do you, when you're picking collaborators, do you worry about offending some of your other collaborators? When you're hiring a photographer, do you worry that some other photographers will get jealous, and so you don't?
I think you do have to think of your other partners because you don't want to dilute their brand in choosing another partner. You made a commitment, you built a relationship. It's all about relationships, and I think that if you choose someone else in the space, it does a disservice to the collaboration in both brands. And it also goes back to setting that expectation. Like, it would do society social disservice if one of our partners turned around after we launched a whole collaboration together and partnered with another furniture company, I think. I think you do have to keep your partners in mind.
We always
past and
envision,
present.
we talk about it in our office and envision, would they all be happy sitting together at a table together?
I love that.
Like, would they all be okay in a meeting? What if you had to call one partner overtly and said, I'm going to work with this other person? Again, what if we were at a dinner party together? And, that's kind of how we think about that, to try to respect the work that has been done previously. Whether that work is still on our property or that work has sunsetted, it's still out there in the ethos. We know nothing dies with social media. And so, we try to be really careful, and we're not perfect, and sometimes we mess it up. But we really try to have that, like, if we were all at a party together, would we be okay sort of mentality. Yeah.
I think we'd all be okay.
I think we'd be okay. Yeah. So the future of collaboration, what do you think? Is there anything different happening on the horizon? Do you think we're moving to a more collaborative environment, a world of collectives? Are collaborations becoming more immersive? What do you see as the future?
Roxy.
I got you. So my brand is digitally native. We launched online in 2011. I think I was in my mid-20s, which was a long time ago. And entry point to start an e-commerce shop for custom furniture is pretty low. I think Shopify was $25 a month.
Yep.
At that point, now it's not. And I think that as retail progresses and the space progresses, it's so important when you're doing collaborations to bring it offline. Social media is everything to us, and thankfully we're in a place where we have more resources to execute immersive pop-ups. Come see us at the Whaling Museum after this. But to bring your brands and your collaborations in person where you can create some kind of emotion or experience that really gives, your end consumer, whoever that might be, an opportunity to get to know your brand. The touch points are so important, especially, we're in furniture. That from a sales perspective too, if we're selling sofas online, you can't sit in them, you can't touch them, you can't feel them. So our strategy we don't have a brick and mortar store is to pop up in different exciting places like here in Round Top. And in that strategy we found versus, a permanent brick and mortar, it generates buzz and excitement, and it's like, oh, where are they going next? They're going on the road. So I do feel like the future of brand collaborations, some kind of physical immersive pop-up experience should be considered. And I know that you all have social media and follow big brands, and I think a company that's killing it right now, all of the J. Crew pop-ups everywhere. I know you hosted them at the Colony, and just the creativity behind these immersive experiences is what really gets people excited. J. Crew doesn't sell produce, but how cool was their produce stand? So I think that not only when it comes to just, Nick and I have a furniture collaboration together, but you have to think of it in a grander scope of like, what can we do together that's a little bit of a spin, like the Colony's trivia night that we'll do at the Whaling Museum. I just think you have to be super creative these days to stand out and to excite people, to get them to pay attention.
Yeah, I think it's everything in moderation. I think you have to, build your own brand and really focus on that and really be true to yourself. And then the occasional collaboration can bolster that and can be a great, exciting thing to draw attention and things like that. But you don't want to. I don't think the future is constant collaboration. I think collaboration in the era of social media and things like that can really be exciting and fantastic and fabulous. But it's got to be as an addition, as a touch point, not as a constant way of life as far as
it can
business.
get noisy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, right?
Yeah, I think you have to really focus on who you are and driving sales and driving and things like that, and then that can help.
I love it.
Well, they get less exciting if you do too many of them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, on that note, I think it is time to open up the floor for some questions. Oh, Marla's in the front row, like always, girlfriend.
How do you know? On now? Okay. How do you know when a collaboration has come to its end? Or, when you feel that it's time to kind of wrap up that collaboration? Not at all, Bill. You and I, we got this. But, I think it's an important question because I think, you come together with different partnerships and it can be really exciting. And you mentioned how to keep it interesting, how to keep it exciting. But how do you know when it's time to kind of fold them and move on? And is that something you have to say to your collaborators in advance?
I think it's on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on the brand and the collaboration and things like that, because certainly things can start to feel stale and start to feel, ideally you both feel like things have kind of run their course. Obviously, if you can set certain touch points and certain things beforehand, that's going to make things really easier. This is a 3-month run. This is, gonna go, and ideally, you do a kind of one-off thing, and if you want to collaborate on something new again, it can be a continuing relationship. I don't necessarily see my relationship with Sarah ever ending. Ideally,
It's very nervous
I
where
think
this is
she was
going.
very, very worried about that. But she's stuck with
Thanks,
me.
Marla.
Should I be worried, Nick?
But that's because it's, but we also don't put pressure on each other. It's like, hey, would you like, we're good friends, so it's like, oh, I have a good idea. Would you like to do this? Or I have an idea. Maybe you would be perfect for this, and you can kind of do it like that. And with Roxy, who's also become my good friend, we have a very specific product that we launched, and that product is going to have its shelf life, and maybe there'll be an opportunity to refresh it or things like that. And down the line, if she comes to me or I come to her and like, oh, I'm dying to do, custom lampshades and something like that, and you would be the perfect partner for that, and she could say, well, I think it's a stupid idea, but because she's very mean like that.
I am terrible. I'm terrible.
But it's one of those things that it's a back and forth, I think.
It's like an ongoing. It's gauging at every step of the way, the ongoing relationship you all have together. Does it feel natural? Does it feel forced? And back to expectations too. You can set your certain checkpoints in. Okay, at 6 months, let's check in. Let's see how we all feel. It's really about the communication, and I think you can just tell when it's a good fit. And you can just tell when it's a good fit as you work together when you tackle big projects.
Yep. The microphone's coming. Just give 1 second. There you go.
For the collaboration between these two talented people, could you share how you selected them and how you met?
Ooh,
That's a good one.
that's a good one. Nick, how did we meet?
We were at a photo shoot together.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
You got in the pool, and I was like, what's that man doing in the pool? With a camera, barefoot, in his clothes.
Yes, I shot you and myself for the cover of a magazine.
That was right.
When you had just recently bought the hotel.
Early
And then we just kept running into each other socially and whatnot. And I think, we just realized that we enjoyed each other's company in a business sense and a social sense, and that we could create some fun things.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. If I forgot, we shot that cover together, and it was.
And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that a lot of it is relationships. The fact that we kept running into each other and on a social level enjoyed each other's company. We thought, well, that could mean that we could work together well, and
I really like his wife.
that helps as well,
She's great.
So I think it's a lot of it is just on a personal level. If it's like you think, oh well, I love their work, but also I think they could be someone who would be fun to work with.
Can we be around?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind spending time with that person and their company and their brand
And that's how we ended up with Roxy. Honestly, as I stalked you on social media, and then I cold emailed her. I
remember that email.
Me too. I crafted that email, and then I let it sit, and then I recrafted it 2 days later, because this was one of our first big partnerships was Roxy, like truly enumerated. We have a written agreement between us because there's a sales component, and I had read a lot about you both on social and in some print media, and felt like our values were aligned. And because there was one, I forget what interview it was, but I read something, and you were very open about yourself and your family.
I know what it was. We talked about this. I think that it was when I was leaving New York. Mm-hmm. And I was so devastated.
You were devastated, yeah.
I was in New York most of my adult life. My daughter was born there. I started Society Social in New York, and then we had to leave, which was good for the business. We bought our manufacturing facility in North Carolina, but I was just gutted that we had to leave. And I was, very open about it. And I remember just walking around the city and weeping that we had to go. Yep. And you had said that that the post was genuine, and it just touched a chord somehow. And that's what I was saying about, just doing as much reading as you can and research as you can. And I was so thrilled to get your email. And honestly, that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like you were saying, Nick, like, somebody my gosh, somebody wants me. And it's been, 5 years now, maybe.
It was before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was 19, I think.
I mean, I think it's a combination of having a strong brand yourself, and then that personal aspect. I think I had seen you for years on Instagram and loved your work, and then I met you at the Colony in person, and we got to talking
at dinner. Yeah. We were all at the same table.
Exactly.
And the fact that I knew your work and you knew my work, and we both like appreciate it, and then we met, and then it just kind of happened organically. So I can think it can happen like where the cold reach out and stuff like that, and sometimes that works out, but sometimes it can just be, you know, a chance meeting, a social aspect, something like that. And I think if, you know, you have a strong brand and they have a strong brand and they can kind of have already seen each other, and I think that can be a, you know, but almost all of my work and collaborations and everything comes from reputation and word of mouth and relationships and people being like, oh, you know who you should hire? You should hire this person. Oh, I love their work. They're good to work with. Yeah, they're great. Oh, okay, I'll reach out. You know, so it's kind of one of those things.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question.
I was just going to make a comment.
Thank you.
I was just going to make a comment. I've collaborated with one designer for 35 years, and there's periods in there where you don't work together. And so it's kind of like some collaborations sort of need a rest. And so after, you know, like there might be a 3 or 4 year period where you don't work together. But when you come back together, it's kind of like it's new again, but it's old again because you have all those things in common and you know what to expect. So that's another thing.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I think being part of a good business person and a good collaborator is not getting your feelings hurt or offended if you know, somebody hires someone else and things like that, and you do fall out, because you have to realize that the brands need refreshing every now and then, and that advertising and marketing changes and things become stale. So you have to realize that some things just end, but if you keep a good relationship, they'll come back around or they'll recommend you for something else. And just being, you know, easy to work with and not getting your feelings hurt easily and things like that is, I think, so important to business in general.
Yeah, I think
Sometimes that's easier said than done, but you do get over it.
Yeah.
that's true. And the ebb and flow that you note, I think, is important. You know, we at the Colony have a long-standing collaboration with DeGournay, and it started with one wallpaper, and then we have a second wallpaper, and then there was some product extensions from there. And it is a very wonderful and long collaboration, which is sometimes very active and sometimes a little more quiet, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that we don't love each other or we're not still in it together, because we are, but it just means that it's not always, you know, at the very, very top of everyone's marketing plan. And I think that that's okay.
And ideally, if you were to, you know, decorate your other hotel, the Hedges, with all Gracie wallpaper, DeGournay wouldn't feel.
I think that would be life.
Yeah, and
Although we won't do that, don't worry. Christine's here somewhere. There she is. We're not going to do it, I promise.
but ideally they'll recognize that that's a different brand maybe, and that doesn't necessarily,
Or a different aesthetic.
and that it just doesn't fit. But that doesn't mean you can't go back to DeGournay for your third hotel, which maybe is
where's it going to be?
Nantucket. You know?
Nantucket.
Okay. Well, the timer is flashing at me very angrily, so on that note.
It's that time. Well, thank you, Sarah, Nick, Roxy.
Thank you.
The conversation about collaboration, it really applies to, you know, right down to what we do with designer and client.
Yeah.
Pick the right client, make sure that you're engaging properly, make sure that you're over-communicating. I mean, great conversation. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to the Colony Hotel and the Hedges Inn. Thanks very much.
Thanks.